Hi everyone, thanks for joining us again today. Today we have a special treat. We're going to go outside and do some maintenance on one of our outdoor bronze sculptures. Before we go outside, I wanted to just show you a few of the things that we'll be using to maintain the sculpture and clean it. We'll be using some mineral spirits, some denatured alcohol, some acetone, a broom or a little sweeper to clean things out first. We will be using at some point propane or MAP gas to apply the hot wax. We're using Orvis paste. You can see here it's a mild soap. You can find that in a tack shop or a feed and seed store. It's often used for shampoo, a mild shampoo for horses. You may want some leather gloves. Some rags or microfiber cloth. We also are using some wooden skewers or tongue depressors to remove some of the mineral deposits that are on the sculpture. This is an agricultural sprayer. You've probably seen these to spray pesticides or things like that. We're using just plain old water in this, and that's all. We don't want to use anything else that would be abrasive or harmful to our sculpture or the environment. So just plain water in your sprayer. And then a bucket with about a quarter to a half full of water with just about a spoonful of your soap, the Orvis paste. You don't want it super sudsy, like bubble bathy, just a little soapy. And then some soft brushes like this. I think that's all of our supplies. You may also want some sunscreen. So we'll meet you out there. Hi everyone, welcome back. We're outside with our two otter sculptures out by the creek here at the museum. You can view them when you are headed down to the By Hand Through Memory exhibit. They're outside the windows on the left, right by the creek, and they need a little attention. So we're gonna show you how we clean them and do some maintenance on them. The first thing that we're gonna wanna do is sweep away any of the debris that's around them to make sure that it's not affecting the bronze or any patina or anything like that. Okay. So there's quite a bit of dirt in some of the crevices in the sculpture. So I'm gonna use one of these wooden tongue depressors to dig some of that out. Alright, so you probably noticed I got rid of all of the lichen as well. We don't want any of that growing on or around the sculpture. So the next step, we're going to spray it down with water and get it all wet so that we can start scrubbing it. You might notice that we're pretty far out into the trees out here, not really near any hose hookups or anything like that, so that's where the sprayer comes in really handy. Okay, so now we're going to use that mild Orvis paste soap and water and a very soft brush, something like a shoe brush or something that has the soft bristles on it to scrub the sculpture. You want to make sure that you're not using any metal. No metal scrapers, no wire brushes, anything like that. You don't want to end up scratching the sculpture, and you also don't want to leave behind any metal bristles or anything from the brushes, as they can affect the patina of your sculpture over time if they get stuck onto the metal. So we'll start giving these guys a little bath. Okay, so we've given the otters a wash down with the Orvis soap, and all that dirt and pollen and whatnot has been washed away, but you may be able to see that a lot of these mineral deposits are still here. So what we're going to do is use that propane torch. You can use propane or MAP gas, and hit it with some heat and then try scraping off, flaking off some of these mineral deposits with the wooden tongue depressor. If you have any reservations about using the torch on your own sculpture, if you're doing this on a little sculpture in your own backyard, I would say definitely call a conservator and have them do it. They would be happy to do that for you, to be hired for that job. if you are up for experimenting yourself, it's propane or MAP gas and just a gentle application of heat on the sculpture. So let's try this. Okay, so you've just applied a lot of heat to the sculpture, so the number one thing you want to do is not touch it. So we're going to go ahead and scrape it with the wooden tongue depressor and just see what happens. This is just a really gentle lifting of those deposits, and we'll see if this has a positive effect. You're going to go back and forth like that until the mineral deposits are gone. You can also try applying heat and a little mineral oil and seeing if the spots go away or if they reappear after that mineral oil is dried, or mineral spirits. I'm going to touch base with you a little later after I've had some time to scrape off these mineral deposits. It'll take a little bit. I'll see you in just a moment. Okay, so as you can hopefully see, we've removed quite a bit of that mineral deposits from the sculpture, and our next step is going to be to use the mineral spirits and wipe down the entire sculpture. This will kind of get rid of any of the residing debris and dust, and also give us an idea of how the sculpture is going to look once we hot wax it. So let's get started. Okay, now that we've applied the mineral spirits, we're going to let this dry for a while, and then we'll move on to the next step of waxing the sculpture. Okay, so there's a couple of different ways to apply the wax finish to your bronze sculpture. The easiest way is going to be using a microcrystalline wax like this, Renaissance wax. And that would include just applying a really thin amount to a rag and just wiping it onto your sculpture and letting it harden and then buffing it out. The other way that's a little bit more advanced is to hot wax, which involves using your propane or MAP gas torch again, heating up the sculpture and applying the wax with a natural bristle brush. And that's what we're going to do today. So get your torch again if you're following along, and we'll heat the sculpture up a little bit. So if you want to be really technical about it, you are shooting for about 175 degrees, or the melting point of the wax. You want to use a natural bristle chip brush like this, and I've used blue painter's tape to protect the sculpture from the metal part of the brush. It also holds the bristles together really tightly. We're just going to brush this on, kind of dab it on. You want to make sure to get into all of those little crevices. This guy's cute little face has quite a few. Okay, once you've waxed your entire sculpture, allow it to harden for at least a half an hour. And as a tip, you're going to want to do this on a nice day, but not too hot of a day. So somewhere in the 70s is a pretty good day, and even if it's overcast, that's even nicer. You don't want it to be too hot to where the wax isn't going to harden and it stays soft on the sculpture. So a nice day like this where it's in the 70s, it's slightly overcast, is a pretty perfect day to be applying wax to your sculpture. So again, let it harden for about a half an hour or longer, and then we'll come back and do a second coat. Okay, now that we've gotten a couple of coats of wax on our sculpture, we're just going to take a soft microfiber cloth and buff the wax. So we're just going to wipe it down in a circular motion and buff the wax on the sculpture to give it a really nice shine. Okay, so a good way to know when you need to reapply wax is by just washing it down with some water, and if the water beads up on the sculpture, then you know the wax is still healthy and still applied. If it soaks into the bronze, then you know that it's time to do a re-waxing. Typically, you want to do that a couple of times a year, up to 4 times a year even, if you have really harsh weather in your area. But I think that these guys are looking pretty good, especially from where they were at. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again soon. Bye.